The cold metal of the hospital bed rail pressed against Jasmine's palm as she stared at the consent forms spread before her. Her beautiful dark skin looked ashen under the harsh fluorescent lights, and her usually bright brown eyes were red from crying. 22 years old, and she felt like her life was already over. "Sign the papers, Jasmine." Patricia's voice cut through the sterile air like ice. Her mother stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, designer purse clutched tight. Even in the hospital, Patricia maintained her put-together appearance, pressed clothes, perfect makeup, not a hair out of place. But her eyes held no warmth, no motherly concern for the daughter who was about to give up part of her body. "Mama, please," Jasmine whispered, her voice breaking. "Can't we wait? Maybe find another donor? I'm supposed to start my nursing program next month. I've worked so hard." "Don't be selfish." Destiny's sharp voice interrupted from the bed next to hers. At 24, Jasmine's older sister had always been the favored child. Even now, sick as she was supposed to be, Destiny managed to look beautiful. Her long straightened hair fanned across the pillow, and she wore expensive silk pajamas instead of a hospital gown. "I'm dying and all you can think about is some stupid school program? Family comes first, Jasmine. Haven't Mama and Daddy taught you anything?" Jasmine's heart clenched. For as long as she could remember, Destiny had made her life miserable. Growing up, Destiny had broken Jasmine's toys, stolen her friends, and convinced their parents that every accident or mishap was Jasmine's fault. When they were teenagers, Destiny had spread rumors at school that Jasmine was adopted, that she didn't really belong in their family. The cruel words had hurt then, but now they seemed to echo in the hospital room with strange new meaning. "The girl is being dramatic as usual," Robert muttered from his chair in the corner. Jasmine's father barely looked up from his phone. He was a successful businessman who had always treated his daughters like business transactions. Destiny brought prestige. She was beautiful, popular, married to a wealthy man. Jasmine was just an expense, a duty to fulfill. Dr. Angela Harris entered the room, her white coat crisp and professional. She was a striking African-American woman in her mid-40s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Something about her presence made Jasmine sit up straighter. "Good morning, Parker family," Dr. Harris said, reviewing the chart in her hands. "I need to go over the procedure one more time with Jasmine before we proceed." "We've been over this already," Patricia snapped. "How many times do we need to hear the same thing? Destiny needs the liver, Jasmine is a match, end of story." Dr. Harris's eyebrows raised slightly. "Actually, Mrs. Parker, this is a major surgical procedure. Jasmine has the right to understand every aspect of what she's agreeing to." She turned to Jasmine with genuine concern. "How are you feeling about all this, honey?" Jasmine's throat felt tight. She glanced at her family, saw the warning look in Patricia's eyes, the smirk on Destiny's face. "I want to help my sister." But even as she said the words, something inside her screamed that this was wrong. Everything felt wrong. The way her parents had immediately assumed she would donate without question. The way Destiny hadn't even thanked her, just demanded it as her right. The way none of them seemed to care that Jasmine was terrified. "Jasmine," Dr. Harris said gently, "you know you can change your mind at any time, right? Even right up until you're taken into surgery. This is your body, your choice." "Don't fill her head with nonsense," Patricia said sharply. "She's doing the right thing. Family takes care of family." Dr. Harris's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'll need to speak with Jasmine privately before we proceed. It's hospital policy." "That won't be necessary," Robert said, finally looking up from his phone. "We're all here to support her decision." "I'm sorry, but it's not optional," Dr. Harris said firmly. "Jasmine, let's step outside for a moment." As they walked into the hallway, Jasmine felt like she could breathe for the first time in days. The hospital corridor was busy with nurses and doctors going about their duties, but it felt peaceful compared to the tension in that room. "Jasmine," Dr. Harris said softly, "I have to ask. Are you being pressured into this donation?" The question hung in the air between them. Jasmine wanted so badly to say yes, to tell this kind doctor about the years of emotional abuse from Destiny, about how her parents had made it clear that refusing would mean being cut off from the family completely. But the weight of 22 years of conditioning was heavy on her shoulders. "My sister needs help," Jasmine said quietly. "I'm the only match." Dr. Harris studied her face for a long moment. "Actually, that's something I wanted to discuss with you. We ran the compatibility tests multiple times because some of the results seemed unusual." "Unusual how?" "Well, you're an excellent match for Destiny, almost surprisingly good. But some of the genetic markers." Dr. Harris paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Has your family ever discussed your genetic history? Any adoption in the family? Any questions about paternity? Jasmine's heart began to pound. Why would you ask that? Sometimes when we run these detailed genetic tests for organ compatibility, we notice other things. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but there are some inconsistencies that might be worth exploring. Before Jasmine could respond, Patricia appeared in the hallway. What's taking so long? Destiny is getting anxious. Dr. Harris straightened. We were just finishing up. Jasmine, think about what we discussed, okay? As they walked back to the room, Jasmine's mind raced. Genetic inconsistencies? What did that mean? And why did her heart leap with something that felt dangerously close to hope? Back in the room, Destiny was sitting up in bed, looking perfectly healthy despite her supposed liver failure. She was scrolling through her phone, posting selfies to social media with captions about her brave little sister. Finally, Destiny said without looking up, I was starting to think you'd gotten cold feet, Jazzy. The childhood nickname sounded cruel coming from her lips. Jasmine looked at the consent forms still lying on her bed. Her whole life had led to this moment, being asked to give up a piece of herself for someone who had never shown her an ounce of kindness. But now, with Dr. Harris's words echoing in her mind, she wondered if there was more to her story than she'd ever been told. I need more time, Jasmine said suddenly. The room went silent. Patricia's face darkened. Excuse me? I need more time to think about it. There is no more time. Destiny shrieked, suddenly looking very much like the dramatic child she'd always been. The surgery is scheduled for tomorrow. I could die waiting. If you could die waiting one more day, maybe you should have asked me sooner, Jasmine said, surprising herself with her boldness. Robert stood up abruptly. Jasmine, you're being unreasonable. We've already made all the arrangements. The hospital, the insurance, time off work. You can't just change your mind now. Actually, she can, came Dr. Harris's voice from the doorway. And I'm recommending we postpone the surgery anyway. What? Patricia's voice was shrill. On what grounds? I want to run some additional tests. There are some complications that need to be addressed first. Jasmine saw something flash across Patricia's face. Was it panic? Fear? But it was gone so quickly she wondered if she'd imagined it. What kind of complications? Destiny demanded. Dr. Harris looked directly at Jasmine. The kind that require genetic counseling and some family history clarification. I've scheduled you for some additional blood work tomorrow morning, Jasmine. The surgery is postponed until we get those results back. As the doctor left the room, the tension was so thick Jasmine could barely breathe. Patricia's hands were shaking as she gathered her purse. Robert was making angry phone calls about rescheduling. And Destiny? Destiny was looking at Jasmine with an expression she'd never seen before. It wasn't just anger or frustration. It was fear. That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. The hospital bed felt like a prison, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw the fear in Destiny's face. She'd never seen her sister look scared before. Angry, yes, manipulative, absolutely, but never scared. What was she afraid of? Around midnight, when the hospital had settled into its quiet night rhythm, Jasmine decided to walk the halls. She'd always found movement helped her think, and right now her mind was spinning with questions she didn't know how to ask. The pediatric ward was just down the hall, and she could hear the soft sounds of lullabies playing from the speakers. It reminded her of Grandma Ruby, who used to sing to her when she was little. Grandma Ruby was the only person in her family who had ever made Jasmine feel truly loved. When she died 3 years ago, it felt like the last bit of warmth had left the Parker household. Can't sleep either? Jasmine turned to find a nurse approaching, a kind-faced African-American woman in her late 30s with natural hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her name tag read Beverly Thomas, RN. Not really, Jasmine admitted. Too much on my mind. Nurse Beverly nodded knowingly. You're the liver donor, right? Dr. Harris mentioned you might be walking around tonight. Big decision ahead of you. Jasmine corrected. The surgery got postponed. Ah yes, for additional testing. Beverly's tone was neutral, but something in her eyes suggested she knew more than she was letting on. Mind if I walk with you? I'm on my break. They strolled down the quiet corridor together, passing empty wheelchairs and the soft glow of vending machines. Can I ask you something? Beverly said after a moment. And please don't take this the wrong way, I've been a nurse for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of family dynamics around organ donation. Jasmine nodded, curious. Is this something you really want to do or something you feel like you have to do? The question hit Jasmine like a physical blow. She stopped walking and leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling exhausted. "I don't know anymore," she whispered. "I thought I knew, but now." She looked up at Beverly's kind face. "Can I tell you something crazy?" "Honey, I work nights in a hospital. Crazy is my specialty." Jasmine took a deep breath. "I've never felt like I belonged in my family. My parents have always treated me differently than Destiny. She's their princess and I'm just there. And now they want me to give her part of my liver without even asking if I'm okay with it. They just assumed." Beverly listened without judgment, her eyes full of compassion. "And today," Jasmine continued, "Dr. Harris said something about genetic inconsistencies. What could that mean?" Beverly was quiet for a long moment. "Jasmine, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I was here when Dr. Harris got your test results back. I've never seen her look so surprised." "Surprised how?" "She kept running the tests over and over, asking the lab to double-check everything. Then she spent an hour on the phone with genetic specialists." Beverly paused, looking conflicted. "Listen, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but there's something you should know about your sister's condition." Jasmine's heart began to race. "What do you mean?" "I've been Destiny's nurse for 3 days now, and honey, she doesn't act like someone with liver failure. She's been ordering room service, doing her makeup, posting on social media constantly. Most liver failure patients are exhausted, confused, have yellowing skin. Destiny looks healthier than half the people who visit this hospital." The words hit Jasmine like a thunderbolt. "Are you saying she's not really sick?" "I'm saying something doesn't add up. And when something doesn't add up in a hospital, especially around organ donation, we take it very seriously." Beverly checked her watch. "My break's almost over, but Jasmine, I want you to think about something. If you weren't related to Destiny, if you were just a stranger who happened to be a match, would you donate part of your liver to her?" The question followed Jasmine back to her room, where she lay staring at the ceiling for the rest of the night. If Destiny were a stranger, would she donate? The answer came immediately, no. She wouldn't give anything to someone who had been cruel to her for years. But family was supposed to be different, wasn't it? Family was supposed to love and protect each other. Except in her family, it had never felt that way. The next morning brought a flurry of activity. Jasmine was wheeled down to the lab for what felt like dozens of blood tests. Dr. Harris was there, along with a genetic counselor she'd never met, a serious-looking woman named Dr. Sandra Mitchell. "Jasmine," Dr. Harris said as they drew the final vial of blood, "I need to prepare you for the possibility that these results might be surprising." "Surprising how?" Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. "When we run compatibility tests for organ donation, we look at very specific genetic markers. Your initial tests showed perfect compatibility with Destiny, which is wonderful for transplant purposes. But they also showed some markers that suggest, well, that you and Destiny might not be as closely related as you think." Jasmine's world tilted. "What does that mean exactly?" "It could mean several things," Dr. Harris said gently. "It could mean one or both of you were adopted. It could mean there are different fathers involved. Or it could mean our initial tests were wrong, which is why we're running them again. But if I'm not really her sister, would I still be compatible for donation?" The two doctors exchanged a glance. "That's what we're trying to figure out," Dr. Mitchell said. "Genetic compatibility for organ donation doesn't always follow the same patterns as family relationships. Sometimes strangers are better matches than siblings." As they wheeled Jasmine back to her room, her mind was reeling. The possibility that she might not be Destiny's biological sister should have been devastating. But instead, she felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe that's why she'd never felt like she belonged. Maybe that's why her parents had always treated her like an outsider. Back in the room, Patricia was pacing anxiously while Robert sat in his chair, tapping his foot impatiently. Destiny was propped up in bed, but for the first time she actually looked sick. Her face was pale and she kept glancing nervously at the door. "What did they say?" Patricia demanded the moment Jasmine was settled back in bed. "They're running more tests," Jasmine said carefully. "Results should be back this afternoon." "This is ridiculous," Robert muttered. "We're wasting time on unnecessary procedures while Destiny gets sicker." But Jasmine noticed something odd. Every time someone mentioned the test results, Patricia's hands would flutter nervously to her purse. And Destiny, who usually dominated any conversation, had barely said a word all morning. Around noon, Beverly appeared in the doorway. "Jasmine, you have a visitor downstairs. Should I send them up?" "We're not expecting anyone," Patricia said sharply. Beverly checked her notes. "It's an elderly gentleman. Says he's a family friend. Mr. Eugene Carter?" The effect on the room was immediate and dramatic. Patricia went white as a sheet. Robert jumped to his feet so quickly he knocked over his chair. And Destiny let out a small whimper of fear. But Jasmine felt her heart leap with recognition. Eugene Carter had been Grandma Ruby's next-door neighbor for 40 years. He'd been like a grandfather to Jasmine, always kind and gentle, always treating her like she mattered. She hadn't seen him since Grandma Ruby's funeral. "I'll go down and see him," Jasmine said, starting to get up. "No." Patricia's voice was sharp with panic. "You need to rest. I'll go talk to him." "Actually, he specifically asked for Jasmine," Beverly said. "Said he has something that belongs to her." "Something that belongs to her?" Jasmine's curiosity was overwhelming now. "I'm going down to see him." As she made her way to the elevator, she could hear her parents having a hushed, urgent conversation behind her. She caught fragments. Told him not to come? Should have gotten rid of it years ago? If she finds out. The elevator doors closed on their panicked voices, and for the first time in days, Jasmine smiled. Mr. Eugene was waiting in the lobby, a tall, dignified man in his 70s with silver hair and kind eyes. When he saw Jasmine, his face lit up with the same warmth she remembered from childhood. "Jasmine, baby girl," he said, enveloping her in a gentle hug. "I heard about what's happening and I couldn't stay away any longer. Mr. Eugene, it's so good to see you. But what did you mean about having something that belongs to me?" His expression grew serious. "Your Grandma Ruby made me promise to give this to you when you turned 21, but then she passed before your birthday, and your mama, well, she said you weren't ready for it yet. But when I heard about this hospital business..." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age and sealed with wax. Jasmine's name was written across it in Grandma Ruby's familiar handwriting. "She left this for me?" "She did, baby girl. And she made me swear on my life that you'd get it, no matter what anyone else said." His eyes were sad but determined. "She said it contained the truth you deserved to know." Jasmine's hands trembled as she took the envelope. "What truth?" "That's not for me to say, child. But Ruby loved you more than life itself, and she wanted you to know where you really came from." He glanced around the hospital lobby nervously. "Now, I better get going before your mama comes down here. But Jasmine, whatever that letter says, remember that Ruby saw something special in you from the day you were born. She always said you were her miracle baby." As Mr. Eugene walked away, Jasmine stared at the envelope in her hands. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it echoing in the lobby. Whatever was in this letter, it was important enough that Grandma Ruby had made her neighbor promise to deliver it. Important enough that her parents had tried to keep it from her. She found a quiet corner of the lobby and carefully broke the wax seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in Grandma Ruby's careful cursive, and beneath it, a smaller envelope marked DNA Results Confidential. The letter began, "My dearest Jasmine, if you're reading this, then the time has come for you to know the truth about who you really are." Jasmine's hands shook as she read her grandmother's letter. The world around her seemed to fade away. The busy hospital lobby, the sounds of people coming and going, even her own racing heartbeat. There was only the letter and the truth it contained. "My dearest Jasmine, if you're reading this, then the time has come for you to know the truth about who you really are. I pray that I was able to tell you myself, but if something has happened to me, then I trust Eugene to keep his promise. Baby girl, you are not Patricia and Robert's biological daughter. You are my granddaughter, but not through their family line. You are the daughter of my beloved son Marcus, who died in a car accident when you were just 6 months old. Your mama was a beautiful young woman named Sarah who died in the same accident. They were coming to visit me when it happened, and you were the only survivor." Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. She had to read the paragraph twice before the words sank in. Marcus and Sarah. Names she'd never heard before, but somehow they felt familiar, like echoes of a song she'd once known. "Patricia is my stepdaughter from my late husband's first marriage. When you survived the accident, the doctor said you needed a family, and Patricia and Robert had just gotten married. They agreed to take you in, but only if I signed over the life insurance money from Marcus and Sarah's deaths. I was so desperate to keep you in the family that I agreed. I thought they would love you like their own, but over the years, I watched them treat you more like a burden than a blessing. When Destiny was born 2 years later, it became even clearer that you would never be their priority. But you were always mine, sweet girl. You were my second chance at having Marcus in my life." Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face now. Everything was starting to make sense. Why she'd never felt like she belonged, why her parents had always treated her differently, why Destiny had always seemed to know she could get away with being cruel. "I had a DNA test done years ago to make sure I had legal documentation of your true parentage. The results are in this envelope. Marcus was my son, which makes you my biological granddaughter. Patricia and Robert are not your real parents, and Destiny is not your real sister. I wanted to tell you when you turned 18, but Patricia threatened to cut off all contact if I did. She said you'd never want to see me again if you knew I'd kept this secret. I was afraid of losing you, so I waited. But I can't go to my grave without you knowing the truth. You deserve to know that your real parents loved you desperately. Marcus was studying to be a teacher and Sarah was an artist. They were so excited about being parents, about giving you all the love in the world. And baby girl, you have so much of them in you. Marcus's kindness, Sarah's creativity, their shared strength and determination. There's money too. The life insurance money that Patricia and Robert claimed was spent on your upbringing. I've been saving it all these years and it's in an account with your name on it. Enough to pay for your nursing school and then some. You never have to depend on them for anything again. I know this is a lot to take in, but I need you to understand something important. You don't owe Patricia, Robert, or Destiny anything. They took you in for money, not love. They used you for financial benefits and free childcare, but they never legally adopted you. Your last name should be Washington after your real father. Be strong, my darling girl. You have a whole life ahead of you, and now you can live it as your true self. Jasmine Washington, daughter of Marcus and Sarah, granddaughter of Ruby. You are loved, you are valuable, and you deserve so much more than they've ever given you. All my love, Grandma Ruby. P.S. I've also left letters and photos from your real parents in my safety deposit box. Eugene has the key and the bank information. Jasmine sat in stunned silence for several minutes, the letter clutched in her trembling hands. Then she remembered the second envelope, the DNA results. With shaking fingers, she opened it and found official documentation confirming everything Grandma Ruby had written. Marcus Washington was listed as her father, Sarah Johnson Washington as her mother, Ruby Washington as her grandmother. She wasn't a Parker. She'd never been a Parker. She was Jasmine Washington, and everything about her life had been built on a lie. The shock was overwhelming, but underneath it was something else. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. She wasn't crazy for feeling like an outsider. She wasn't selfish for not wanting to sacrifice her body for someone who'd tormented her. She wasn't really related to any of them, which meant she didn't owe Destiny her liver. Jasmine stood on unsteady legs and made her way back to the elevator. Her mind was racing with questions, but one thing was crystal clear. She was done being manipulated by people who had lied to her for 22 years. When the elevator doors opened on her floor, she could hear raised voices coming from her room. As she got closer, she could make out the words. Told you we should have handled this differently? That was Robert's voice, tight with anger. How was I supposed to know they'd run genetic tests? Patricia's voice was shrill with panic. It was supposed to be simple. She donates, Destiny gets better, end of story. Well, it's not the end of the story now, is it? Destiny's voice was venomous. If those tests come back showing what I think they'll show, we're all screwed. Keep your voice down, Patricia hissed. If she finds out the truth, she'll what? Leave us. Destiny laughed bitterly. Good. I'm tired of pretending to care about her anyway. She was always weird, always too sensitive. Never fit in properly. She's been useful though, Robert said coldly. Free babysitting, housework, never asked for much. And now, when we need her most, she might actually be able to help Destiny for real. If the tests don't ruin everything, Patricia muttered. Jasmine stood frozen outside the door, listening to them discuss her like she was a tool to be used rather than a person. But now she knew why, because to them that's all she'd ever been. A convenient source of free labor and financial benefits, never a real daughter. She walked into the room with her head held high for the first time in years. The tests are back, she announced. All three of them went silent, turning to stare at her with barely concealed fear. And? Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. And you've been lying to me my entire life, Jasmine said calmly. I know the truth now. I know about Marcus and Sarah Washington. I know about the life insurance money. I know that you're not my real family. Patricia's face crumpled, but whether from guilt or panic, Jasmine couldn't tell. Robert looked like he'd been caught in a business deal gone wrong. And Destiny? Destiny looked absolutely furious. Who told you? Patricia demanded. It was that nosy old man, wasn't it? Eugene Carter? I knew we should have. It doesn't matter who told me, Jasmine interrupted. What matters is that it's true. And that means I don't owe any of you anything. Especially not my liver. Now wait just a minute, Robert started, standing up with his businessman voice. Regardless of biology, we raised you. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head for 22 years. You owe us. I owe you nothing, Jasmine said, her voice growing stronger. You took me in for the insurance money from my real parents' deaths. You used me for free childcare and housework. You treated me like a burden instead of a blessing. And now you want me to risk my life for someone who spent years making mine miserable. I'm your sister. Destiny shrieked, tears streaming down her face. I could die. You're not my sister, Jasmine said quietly. And honestly, after listening to you three discuss how useful I've been as your unpaid servant, I'm not sure I care if you live or die. The words hung in the air like a slap. Destiny's tears turned to rage. You ungrateful little. That's enough. Dr. Harris's voice cut through the tension as she entered the room with several other medical staff members and security guards. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have the final test results. Patricia, Robert, and Destiny all turned to her with desperate hope in their eyes, as if the doctor might somehow save them from this moment of truth. The genetic tests confirm what we suspected, Dr. Harris continued, looking directly at Jasmine. You and Destiny are not biologically related. In fact, you're not related to any of the Parkers at all. But she's still compatible for donation, right? Patricia asked desperately. Dr. Harris's expression was grim. That's where things get interesting. We ran additional tests on Destiny's liver function, and I'm afraid we have some concerns. What kind of concerns? Destiny's voice was small now, frightened. The kind that suggest your liver failure might not be as severe as initially diagnosed. In fact, our latest tests suggest your liver function is nearly normal. The room went dead silent. I don't understand, Robert said slowly. Dr. Harris pulled out a tablet, showing them test results. Destiny, when did you first see a doctor about liver problems? It was. Destiny looked desperately at her parents. 3 months ago, Patricia answered. Dr. Reynolds at the clinic downtown. The same Dr. Reynolds who lost his medical license last week for insurance fraud? Dr. Harris asked pointedly. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Jasmine felt the last piece of the puzzle click into place. You faked it, she whispered, staring at Destiny in horror. You faked being sick to get my liver. That's ridiculous, Destiny said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Dr. Harris asked. Because Dr. Reynolds has been under investigation for months for falsifying medical records to help patients commit insurance fraud. And according to his files, which were seized by authorities this morning, Destiny Parker was one of his patients. But not for liver failure. Then what for? Jasmine demanded. Dr. Harris looked uncomfortable. Cosmetic surgery consultations. Apparently, there's quite a market for healthy organs from young donors, especially livers which can regenerate. Some people pay enormous sums for cosmetic liver refreshes, replacing their damaged liver with a healthy one from a young donor. The room exploded into chaos. Destiny was screaming denials, Patricia was crying, and Robert was shouting at everyone to calm down. But Jasmine just stood there, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over her. They had been willing to let her risk her life in major surgery so that Destiny could sell her healthy liver for cosmetic reasons. They had been willing to sacrifice her for money. But she was done being their sacrifice. The hospital security guards had to escort Patricia, Robert, and Destiny from the building after Destiny's screaming fit became so disruptive that other patients began to complain. Dr. Harris had called in hospital administration, the ethics committee, and even the police to investigate the attempted fraud. Jasmine sat in her hospital bed, finally alone for the first time in days, processing everything that had happened. The woman she'd called mother for 22 years had been willing to let her undergo dangerous surgery for a lie. The woman she'd called sister had been planning to profit from her suffering. The man she'd called father had seen her as nothing more than a convenient tool. But somehow instead of feeling devastated, she felt free. How are you holding up, honey? Beverly appeared in the doorway, her kind face full of concern. Better than I expected, Jasmine admitted. Is that weird? I just found out my entire life has been a lie and I feel relieved. Beverly smiled and sat in the chair beside her bed. It's not weird at all. Sometimes the truth, even when it's painful, is exactly what we need to heal. I keep thinking about all the times I felt like something was wrong, like I didn't belong. Turns out my instincts were right. They usually are, Beverly said. I've seen a lot of family situations in my years as a nurse, and honey, what they were doing to you wasn't love. It was manipulation and abuse. Dr. Harris knocked on the door frame. Mind if I join you ladies? Please, Jasmine said, gesturing to another chair. Dr. Harris sat down with a tired sigh. I've been a doctor for 20 years and I've never seen anything quite like this. The good news is that you're completely healthy, and you can leave the hospital whenever you're ready. The police will probably want to speak with you about pressing charges, but that's entirely up to you. What about the Parkers? Are they in trouble? Destiny and Dr. Reynolds are facing fraud charges. Patricia and Robert could be charged with conspiracy, depending on how much they knew about the fake diagnosis. Dr. Harris paused. But the bigger question is, what do you want to do now? Do you have somewhere to go? Jasmine thought about it. The apartment she'd been living in was technically Robert's property, part of his real estate business. Most of her belongings were there, but she had the key to Grandma Ruby's house that Eugene had given her, along with information about the bank account Ruby had set up for her. I think I'll be okay, she said. I have options now that I didn't have before. Beverly reached over and squeezed her hand. You know what? I get off shift in an hour. How about I drive you wherever you need to go? It's the least I can do after everything you've been through. You don't have to do that, Jasmine protested. Honey, I want to. Besides, I've been invested in your story since day one. I'd like to see how it ends. Dr. Harris smiled. Actually, before you leave, there's something else. We contacted the Washington family, your biological family, through the records we found. Turns out your father Marcus had a brother who's been looking for you for years. Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. Looking for me? His name is David Washington. He lives about 3 hours north of here. He's been working with private investigators and social services, trying to find out what happened to his brother's daughter after the accident. When he heard about the DNA tests, he asked if he could meet you. The thought of meeting blood relatives who had actually been searching for her was overwhelming. Did he know my real parents well? According to what he told us, he and Marcus were very close. He has photos, stories, even some of your parents' belongings that were saved from the accident. He said he's been waiting 22 years to tell you about them. Tears welled up in Jasmine's eyes, but for the first time in days, they were happy tears. 2 hours later, Jasmine walked out of the hospital as a free woman. Beverly had helped her gather the few personal items she'd brought, and Eugene had met them in the parking lot with a box of Jasmine's belongings from Grandma Ruby's house. Things Ruby had saved from Marcus and Sarah's apartment after the accident. Your grandmother never threw away anything that belonged to your parents, Eugene explained as he loaded the box into Beverly's car. She always said she was keeping it for when you were ready to know the truth. As they drove through the city toward Grandma Ruby's house, Jasmine felt like she was seeing everything with new eyes. She wasn't Jasmine Parker anymore. She was Jasmine Washington, daughter of Marcus and Sarah, granddaughter of Ruby. She had a history, a legacy, and now, possibly a future she could control. Ruby's house was exactly as Jasmine remembered it from her childhood visits. A small but cozy brick home with a wraparound porch and a garden full of roses. Eugene had kept it maintained over the years, hoping Jasmine would someday claim her inheritance. Inside, everything was preserved like a museum. Ruby's furniture, her photos, her books. But in the bedroom that had once been Marcus's, Jasmine found something that took her breath away. Walls covered with photos of her. Every school picture, every graduation, every milestone. Ruby had been documenting her life from afar, creating a shrine to the granddaughter she'd been forced to love from a distance. She came to every graduation, every school play, Eugene said softly from the doorway. She'd sit in the back so Patricia wouldn't see her, but she never missed anything important. In the closet, Jasmine found boxes labeled with her name. Inside were letters Ruby had written but never sent, birthday cards, Christmas cards, congratulations on achievements. 22 years of love that had been held in secret. But the most precious discovery was a photo album labeled Marcus and Sarah. Inside were pictures of her parents, young, beautiful, happy. Marcus looked exactly like Jasmine had always imagined her real father would look, with her same warm brown eyes and gentle smile. Sarah was artistic and free-spirited, with natural hair styled in beautiful twists and a laugh that seemed to jump off the pages. And there were pictures of baby Jasmine with them, being held, fed, played with by parents who clearly adored her. In those photos, she could see the love Ruby had written about, the excitement of new parents ready to give their daughter the world. They looked so happy, Jasmine whispered, touching a photo of Marcus holding her while Sarah pointed at something outside the frame, both of them laughing. They were, Eugene said. Ruby used to say that Marcus had never been happier than the day you were born. He carried your picture everywhere, showed you off to anyone who would look. That evening, as Beverly prepared to head home, she hugged Jasmine tightly on Ruby's front porch. You know what I love most about this whole situation? Beverly said. What? You trusted your instincts. Even when everyone was telling you to ignore them, even when you were being pressured and manipulated, some part of you knew something wasn't right. That's going to serve you well in life. Thank you, Jasmine said. For everything. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out, Beverly said with confidence. You're stronger than you know, Jasmine Washington. After Beverly left, Jasmine sat on the porch swing where she'd spent so many summer evenings with Grandma Ruby, reading the letters her grandmother had never sent. Each one was full of pride, love, and hope for Jasmine's future. Ruby had been rooting for her from the sidelines for years, celebrating her victories and worrying about her struggles. As the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Jasmine's phone rang. It was an unknown number with a local area code. Hello? Is this Jasmine? The voice was male, warm, and somehow familiar. Yes, who is this? This is David Washington, your uncle. I've been hoping to hear from you. Jasmine's heart began to race. Uncle David? I know this must be overwhelming, but I've been looking for you for so long. When Dr. Harris called and told me what happened, I could barely believe it. We thought you were being raised by a loving family. We had no idea. You've been looking for me? Every year since the accident. Your father was my best friend, not just my brother. When you disappeared into the system, I tried everything to find you. But Patricia and Robert had legal custody, and the records were sealed. I've been hiring investigators, checking databases, anything I could think of. Jasmine wiped away tears she didn't realize had been falling. I had no idea anyone was looking for me. Honey, you have a whole family up here who's been wondering about you for 22 years. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Your father had 3 brothers and we all wanted to be part of your life. We just didn't know where you were. Do you remember my parents? David's voice grew soft with emotion. I remember everything about them. Marcus was the kindest man I've ever known, and Sarah. She was like sunshine in human form. They were so excited about being parents, about raising you to be strong and independent and loved. Would you like to meet? Jasmine asked hesitantly. I was hoping you'd ask. I can drive down tomorrow if you'd like. I have photo albums, home videos, even some of your father's college papers about education reform. He was going to change the world through teaching, you know. He believed every child deserved to feel valued and supported. After they hung up, Jasmine sat in the growing darkness, feeling overwhelmed by the day's revelations. In the span of 24 hours, she discovered her true identity, escaped from a family that had been using her, and learned that she had relatives who had been searching for her for decades. But the most amazing part was yet to come. The next morning, Jasmine woke up in her grandmother's bed for the first time since she was a child. Sunlight was streaming through the lace curtains Ruby had loved, and for a moment she felt like she was 8 years old again, safe and loved in the only place that had ever felt like home. She spent the morning exploring the house more thoroughly, discovering treasures in every room. In Ruby's desk, she found the bank statements showing the life insurance account that had been growing with interest for over 2 decades. The amount was enough to pay for nursing school, buy a house, and still have money left over for whatever dream she might want to pursue. In the kitchen, she found Ruby's recipe box, full of handwritten cards for all the dishes Jasmine had loved as a child. Ruby had written little notes on many of them. Jasmine's favorite birthday cake, makes her laugh when she helps stir, her mama Sarah's original recipe. Even in death, Ruby had been taking care of her. Around noon, a car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, Jasmine saw a tall African-American man in his 50s get out, carrying a large box and what looked like photo albums. He had the same gentle eyes as the Marcus in the photos, the same warm smile. Jasmine opened the door before he could knock, and for a moment they just stared at each other. You look just like your father, David said finally, his voice thick with emotion. Really? Really? Same eyes, same smile, same way of tilting your head when you're thinking. He gestured to the box in his arms. I brought some things I thought you might want to see. They spent the afternoon on Ruby's living room floor, going through photo albums and home videos. David had saved everything, baby pictures, family gatherings, even video of Marcus practicing teaching lessons on Sarah while she laughed and pretended to be a difficult student. Your father was going to be a high school history teacher, David explained as they watched a video of Marcus passionately explaining the civil rights movement to an imaginary classroom. He believed that understanding the past was the key to building a better future. And your mother was an artist. She painted murals for community centers and schools, trying to bring beauty to places that needed it most. They sound amazing, Jasmine said, watching her parents' faces on the small screen. They were. And they would be so proud of you, Jasmine. When Dr. Harris told me you're studying nursing, I almost cried. Marcus always said he wanted his children to grow up helping people, making the world a little bit better. David pulled out a letter from the box. This is something your father wrote to you before you were born. He and Sarah wrote letters to their future child during the pregnancy, planning to give them to you when you were older. With trembling hands, Jasmine opened the letter. To our beautiful baby. By the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand how much we love you. Right now, you're still growing in your mama's belly, but we already know you're going to be something special. We can feel your strength, your determination, your stubborn streak that comes from both sides of the family. Your mama and I have been talking about what kind of world we want to raise you in. We want you to grow up knowing that you are loved, that you are valuable, that your voice matters. We want you to be kind but strong, gentle but brave. We want you to help people who need it and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Most of all, we want you to know that no matter what happens in life, you are never alone. You have family who love you, ancestors who fought for your freedom, and a future full of possibilities. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. You come from a line of survivors and fighters and dreamers. Be proud of who you are, baby girl. You are our greatest gift to the world. All our love, Daddy Marcus and Mama Sarah. By the time Jasmine finished reading, she was sobbing. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming joy. For the first time in her life, she understood what unconditional love looked like. There's more, David said gently. He pulled out another letter, this one addressed to our daughter's future family. To whoever is raising our daughter. If you're reading this, it means something has happened to us and our baby girl is in your care. We pray that she has found a family who loves her as much as we do, who sees her potential and nurtures her dreams. Please tell her about us, not just that we died but that we lived. Tell her about Marcus's terrible jokes and Sarah's midnight painting sessions. Tell her about how we danced in the kitchen while cooking dinner and read to her every night while she was still in the womb. Tell her that we chose her name because jasmine flowers bloom even in difficult conditions, filling the world with beauty and strength. Most importantly, please help her understand that she is not defined by our loss. She is defined by our love, by her own choices, by the good she brings to the world. We hope she grows up to be exactly who she's meant to be. Thank you for loving our daughter. Thank you for being the family she needs. With gratitude and love, Marcus and Sarah Washington. The Parkers never told you any of this, David said. It wasn't a question. No, Jasmine whispered. They told me my parents died in an accident, but they never talked about who they were or how they lived. I always thought maybe my real parents wouldn't have wanted me either. Oh, honey, David said, pulling her into a hug. Your parents wanted you more than anything in the world. You were their miracle baby, their greatest joy. And they weren't the only ones who loved you. He gestured to the albums spread across the floor. This whole family has been loving you from a distance for 22 years. Your Aunt Michelle, Marcus's twin sister. She teaches kindergarten now because she wanted to honor his memory by working with children. Your cousin James is studying to be a social worker because he spent his whole life wanting to help kids like you who get lost in the system. They all know about me? We all know about you, and we've all been hoping that someday we'd get to be part of your life. David smiled. In fact, I have about 15 relatives who are dying to meet you. But only if you want to. No pressure, no obligations. Just family who wants to love you if you'll let them. Jasmine thought about the difference between the Parker family, who had taken her in for money and used her for free labor, and these Washington relatives who had been searching for her out of love. I'd like that, she said. I'd like that very much. Over the next few hours, David called various family members, putting Jasmine on the phone with aunts and uncles and cousins she'd never known existed. Each conversation was full of warmth and excitement, people who had been waiting years to welcome her home. As evening approached, David prepared to drive back north, but not before making plans for Jasmine to visit the following weekend. There's one more thing, he said as he packed up the photo albums. Your parents had a small life insurance policy too, separate from the one Ruby managed. It's been sitting in probate all these years because no one knew where you were. It's not a fortune, but it should be enough to give you some additional security. I don't know how to thank you, Jasmine said. For looking for me, for keeping their memory alive, for loving you? David smiled. Honey, that's what family does. Real family doesn't love you because of what you can do for them. They love you because of who you are. After David left, Jasmine sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset and thinking about how dramatically her life had changed in just a few days. 3 days ago, she had been Jasmine Parker, the unwanted daughter preparing to sacrifice her body for people who saw her as a tool. Tonight, she was Jasmine Washington, the beloved daughter and granddaughter who had been searched for and prayed for and loved from afar for over 2 decades. Her phone buzzed with a text from Beverly. "How did it go with your uncle?" Jasmine typed back, "Better than I ever could have imagined. I have a whole family who actually wants me." "That's wonderful, honey. You deserve all the love in the world." As she put her phone away, Jasmine noticed a car pulling up to the curb. Her heart sank when she recognized it. It was Robert's Mercedes. She watched as Patricia got out of the passenger seat and walked hesitantly toward the porch. "Jasmine?" Patricia's voice was small, uncertain. "Can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about," Jasmine said calmly. "I know the truth now. Please just give me 5 minutes. I need you to understand." Against her better judgment, Jasmine gestured to the other chair on the porch. Patricia sat down, looking older and more fragile than Jasmine had ever seen her. "I know you must hate us," Patricia began. "I don't hate you," Jasmine said, surprising them both. "I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. But I don't hate you. We never meant for it to go this far. When Ruby first asked us to take you in, we thought it would be temporary. We thought some other family member would step forward. But then there was the insurance money and we were young and struggling financially. So you kept me for the money." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "At first, yes. But then you were just there. Part of our routine. And when destiny came along, it was easier to keep things the way they were than to disrupt everything. Easier for you, maybe. But what about me? Did you ever think about what it was like for me, feeling like I didn't belong? I thought if we didn't tell you the truth, you'd be happier. I thought ignorance would be easier than knowing your real parents were dead." Jasmine shook her head. "You thought wrong. Children always know when they're not really wanted. I spent my whole childhood wondering what was wrong with me, why I couldn't earn your love no matter how hard I tried." "And the liver donation?" Patricia asked quietly. "What about it? Would you, if Destiny had really been sick, would you have done it?" Jasmine considered the question carefully. "If she had really been sick, and if you had asked instead of demanded, and if you had treated me like family instead of like a servant, maybe. But that's not what happened, is it?" Patricia was crying now. "I'm so sorry, Jasmine. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am sorry." "I believe you," Jasmine said. "But sorry doesn't undo 22 years of lies and manipulation. Sorry doesn't give me back the childhood I should have had with people who actually loved me. Is there any chance? Could we try to have some kind of relationship going forward? You're the only daughter I've ever known how to raise, and despite everything, I do care about you." Jasmine looked at this woman who had shaped so much of her life, who had given her food and shelter but never love, who had seen her as a burden and a tool rather than a gift and a blessing. "Maybe someday," Jasmine said finally, "but not now. I need time to figure out who I am without your expectations and manipulations. I need to get to know my real family, my real history. I need to heal from the damage that's been done." Patricia nodded, wiping her eyes. "I understand. And Jasmine? For what it's worth, your real parents would be proud of the woman you've become. Despite everything we did wrong, you grew up kind and strong and good. That's not because of us. That's because of who you are inside." After Patricia left, Jasmine sat alone on the porch as darkness fell around her. Tomorrow she would start her nursing program, the dream she'd worked toward for years. Next weekend, she would meet the extended family who had been loving her from a distance. And someday she would find ways to honor her parents' memory by helping others the way she'd always dreamed of doing. But tonight, she was just Jasmine Washington, sitting in her grandmother's house, surrounded by the love of people who had seen her as a blessing rather than a burden. For the first time in her 22 years of life, she was exactly where she belonged. The jasmine flowers in Ruby's garden were blooming in the darkness, filling the night air with their sweet fragrance. Just like her namesake, Jasmine had bloomed despite difficult conditions, bringing beauty and strength to the world around her. And this was only the beginning of her story.